As they discussed their predicament, the jammed gear began to shake violently. The wooden stick was crushed and flung out, leaving a scratch on Mac's face. The machinery resumed operation, reigniting the noise and drawing the zombies' attention once more, which drowned out the sound of the music box Cassandra was holding. The zombies turned back and resumed their climb to the top level. Unable to find a solution, Addie reluctantly set aside her baseball bat for the time being. The result was instantaneous, and the zombies halted once more. They didn't stay on the upper levels for long, swiftly descending to the ground to regroup with their companions. They briefed them on the situation. Garnet, upon learning the details, felt a shiver of apprehension. They needed to act quickly to refuel the tanker truck. Roberta honked the horn to alert the others. Cassandra positioned the music box at the entrance of the drainage pipe. This immediately diverted the zombies' attention elsewhere. Seeing that it worked, Roberta pressed the accelerator and rapidly moved the vehicle forward. Garnet kept the pipe firmly in place. Max quickly activated the switch, and gasoline started flowing into the tanker. They finally relaxed, as everything seemed to be going according to plan. Meanwhile, in the nearby vehicle, Doc and Murphy were chatting when a zombie suddenly appeared outside the glass, scratching and snarling. Murphy's face turned pale with fear, remembering the time he was attacked by 8 zombies. Doc tried to calm him by saying it was just a few small zombies, and they were separated by the glass. Nonetheless, Murphy remained terrified. Doc had no option but to open the door and confront the zombies outside. Murphy, still convinced of imminent danger, locked the car door. Doc prepared to deal with the zombies one by one. After dispatching one, he hurried to eliminate the zombie on the hood. However, another zombie lunged from the side, wearing a helmet that thwarted Doc's attempts. The attacker was none other than 10K, who had initially taken a vantage point. At this moment, Murphy was paralyzed with fear. As Doc finished speaking, Murphy fumbled with the car keys, attempting to flee. The vehicle behind them suddenly lurched forward. Back at the refinery, Cassandra played the music box. Travis moved closer to her, saying, "This is good. We'll let those idiots fill up the tanker and then we'll take it from them, reaping the rewards of their labor." It was clear they had a history. However, Cassandra seemed eager to distance herself from Travis and didn't want to return to that organization. Travis threatened her, saying if she didn't comply, he'd expose her true identity to their companions and see if they would still accept her. Not wanting any further entanglement with Travis, Cassandra decided to flee. But as she tried to escape, she reached a dead end. Travis blocked her path, wearing a smug expression as he slowly approached, brandishing a weapon. He lunged at Cassandra, delivering an electric shock to her neck and then striking her in the stomach. While ordinary people would have crumpled to the ground, Cassandra remained unaffected. She retaliated by kicking Travis down, leaving him to be slowly consumed by the zombies. Meanwhile, Roberta and the team encountered their own mishap. The decompression valve gear jammed, causing the pressure to escalate uncontrollably. The entire machine began to shake violently, on the brink of collapsing. They anxiously watched the pipeline, now covered in zombies. The potential disaster of a pipeline rupture was terrifying. Garnet swiftly decided they needed to get into the car and evacuate. The vehicle had enough fuel to sustain them for a while. However, before they could escape, the pipeline couldn't handle the pressure any longer, and the valve burst. Zombies began to pour out, and the sight was horrifying. These creatures emerged covered in black oil, their vacant eyes staring at them with an even more unsettling appearance. They took a deep breath, grabbed iron rods from the ground, and braced themselves for the fight, though fear was palpable in their hearts. The zombies advanced slowly, growling as if they intended to devour everything in their path. Roberta struggled with the oil pipeline, which was jammed and wouldn't budge. Fortunately, Garnet stepped in and successfully removed the pipe. Their main objective now was to escape the area. At that moment, Murphy made a foolish move. Trying to clear the zombies off the windshield, he reversed the car back towards the oil refinery. To their shock, the vehicle crashed into the metal scaffolding. The surrounding zombies, initially focused on Garnet and the team, were now attracted to the commotion and gathered around the car. Garnet quickly directed the others to evacuate while he went to save Murphy, whose survival was vital for the mission. Garnet fought off several zombies on the other side of the car, opened the door, and tried to pull Murphy out. However, Murphy was paralyzed with fear, mumbling incoherently and refusing to leave the car. Additionally, the crash had sparked flames, escalating the urgency of their situation. Garnet delivered a couple of blows to Murphy and dragged him away. They hadn't moved far when the tanker truck erupted in a massive explosion. They exhaled in despair, realizing their efforts had been in vain. The blazing zombies advanced, and Murphy remained unfazed, seemingly oblivious to the magnitude of his blunder. Their disapproving stares finally made Murphy aware of his error, prompting a feeble apology. Just then, Roberta spotted Cassandra returning alone and wondered why. Cassandra explained that Travis had not survived the zombie attack, omitting any mention of their shared history. Meanwhile, at the Arctic Command Center, Citizen Z noticed the explosion via satellite and grew intrigued. He located the team he had been tracking and hacked a nearby phone booth to call them. Garnet, after a brief hesitation, answered the call and quickly questioned, "You expect us to escort this guy all the way to California? That's too far. We need a closer destination. Send someone to pick him up." He also demanded to speak with the leader at the California lab. Citizen Z awkwardly admitted he had lost contact with the lab, as it had been overrun by zombies, and he was unsure if anyone had survived. Garnet, frustrated, dropped the phone and muttered about the absurdity of the mission. Another explosion at the refinery sent Addie's cherished baseball bat flying towards them, a small stroke of luck amidst their despair. The rest of the team, feeling disheartened, prepared to leave. However, 10K returned with 2 buckets of oil, bringing a rare moment of joy to Doc, who was nearly moved to tears. This ragtag group, initially aiming to save humanity by escorting Murphy to California, now found themselves without a clear objective. The journey was too lengthy, and the current status of the laboratory was uncertain. They could only proceed gradually. Additionally, Cassandra harbored secrets, though no one seemed interested in probing further. In this post-apocalyptic world, everyone had their own hidden pasts. After they departed, a newcomer arrived at the refinery. Accompanying him was one of Travis' associates, a middle-aged man with sunglasses, Tobias, the leader of a shadowy faction. Upon seeing Travis' lifeless body, they deduced that Cassandra was likely behind it. It was clear that Cassandra had secrets and had been evading her former organization. Tobias led a group in Philadelphia, a deranged individual who had fashioned a so-called family from his followers. In his twisted setup, those who joined his group became his children, with the leader providing fresh meat as a luxury for his group. The men in his ranks were notably strong and muscular, while the women were dressed provocatively and wore heavy makeup. One of these women, however, was Tobias' wife and the matriarch of this so-called family. Contrary to appearances, these women were not his lovers but were instead used to entertain guests. Cassandra had once been in a similar predicament, forced to amuse survivors in exchange for mere survival essentials like medication. What seemed like a superficial interaction was actually a deceptive ploy with no real depth. While the man was preoccupied, Cassandra discreetly retrieved a stun gun from beneath the pillow and launched a surprise attack. The man, however, quickly seized her. At that moment, Tobias arrived on the scene. Enraged at having been ensnared in a trap, Tobias' eldest son, Samuel, was swiftly subdued with a single blow. Just when the situation appeared dire, Cassandra struck from behind, assisting in subduing their assailant. Once the turmoil subsided, Tobias approached with a stern demeanor, retrieving the stun gun and administering several shocks to the attacker. Afterward, Tobias turned his attention to Cassandra, who faced regular punishment with an electric device whenever she made a mistake. As circumstances worsened, Cassandra found herself confined in a cage on the streets of a nearby city, awaiting a significant opportunity. By chance, she crossed paths with the anti-doc team. Seeing no better option, she decided to join them to avoid further humiliation. Tobias, enraged by this development, was deeply displeased. While the family was having a meal, the roar of zombies outside the main gate signaled the arrival of someone new. It was Samuel who whispered into Tobias' ear about Cassandra's location. The X-team had indeed reached Philadelphia, and upon arrival, they witnessed zombies feasting. They came across something remarkable, the historic bell, a symbol of freedom in Philadelphia. However, in the context of the apocalypse, this artifact held little value. Roberta inspected the car and discovered that it had gasoline. They decided to leave immediately. Nearly 2 years after the virus outbreak, most car batteries had failed, but Mac managed to fix it with ease. They proceeded with the large clock they had found. At times, Z Nation resembled a comedy, featuring numerous entertaining exchanges. A car suddenly appeared in their path, and Roberta swerved left to avoid it. Although they narrowly avoided an accident, the trailer lost control due to the momentum. The rope securing the large clock snapped and it crashed into a group of zombies. Everyone watched in disbelief, with Doc even commenting that he'd pay to see that scene again. Now, the car they had just acquired had a faulty bearing, so they all piled back into the pickup truck. After traveling for a while, they took a break to eat and recharge. This was their last bit of food, and Murphy, driven by hunger, even started licking the packaging. With no certainty about their next meal, Garnet stepped outside and assigned tasks. He paired Addie and Mac to find a way to contact the command center using a radio. The remaining team members split into 2 groups to search for food. They planned to reconvene in an hour, unaware that they were being watched from a distance by Tobias and his associates. While Addie and Mac were walking down the street, they came across a police car containing a radio. They flirted playfully and coordinated their approach to handle the zombies inside the vehicle. Mac gently tapped on the glass to get their attention and then quickly opened the door, while Addie expertly swung her baseball bat in time with his movements. Shortly afterward, Mac noticed a few zombies approaching from afar and prepared to handle them. Addie stayed in the car, set up her portable camcorder on the front seat, and began checking the equipment. Meanwhile, Doc and the others were busy setting up an antenna to facilitate Addie's radio communication. During this, Cassandra, who was keeping watch, spotted Samuel approaching their location. It was clear he was there to capture her and bring her back. Cassandra couldn't remain idle, nor did she want to put her 2 companions at risk, so she decided to make a break for it. Samuel, under strict orders from his father to ensure Cassandra's safety, pursued her without relent. As Cassandra rounded a corner, the commotion drew the zombies' attention, causing them to charge towards her. Failing to capture Cassandra, Samuel reported back to the rooftop. Tobias, after finishing his conversation, peered through his binoculars once more, convinced there were more opportunities to seize. His focus shifted to where Addie was inside the police car. Just as Addie completed setting up the antennas, she heard static from the radio. With renewed hope, she called out loudly from the car, "This is Delta X Squad. Command Center, do you copy?" Citizen Z quickly picked up the signal and felt a surge of excitement, confirming he had been monitoring all along. Hearing this, Addie was equally elated. But then, Citizen Z heard an unsettling sound, a sort of choking gasp. His attempts to reach Addie were met with only static. In truth, Samuel had followed Tobias' orders to abduct Cassandra, aiming to add more members to their group. Realizing something was amiss, Citizen Z continued to call out to Addie, but to no avail. After a tense 10 minutes, Mac arrived at the police car and called out to Addie, only to find that she was nowhere to be seen. Despite her absence, her weapons remained. Mac's heart sank when he noticed a female zombie nearby. After he finished dealing with the zombies, the radio crackled to life. Mac hurried to respond, not bothering to verify the caller's identity. He immediately inquired about the woman who had been speaking earlier and her whereabouts. Citizen Z, sensing something was amiss, responded gravely. "We only had a brief exchange before strange noises came through. It didn't sound like zombies, more like human interference." Citizen Z wanted to ask about Murphy's status, but Mac, fixated on finding Addie, was uninterested in answering. His sole focus was locating her. As Mac sprinted a few meters, he remembered that Addie's camcorder was still in the car. Reviewing the footage might help him figure out who was behind her disappearance. Meanwhile, Addie regained consciousness, finding herself enveloped in darkness. The man beside her removed the hood, and Tobias, with a reassuring tone, told her not to be frightened. He explained that their actions, though forceful, were out of necessity and assured her that the people here were kind. Instead of displaying anger, Tobias warmly invited Addie to become part of his extended family and played a piano piece as a gesture of goodwill. After 3 minutes, as the music concluded, Tobias instructed someone to free Addie and began his attempts to persuade her, saying, "I am the head of this family. We look out for each other, everyone is for me, and I am for everyone. For the past 3 years, this has been our method of survival." With a refined gesture, Tobias invited Addie to partake in the meat on the table, a rare luxury in these times. Unperturbed, he assumed she would eat when she felt hunger. He then summoned 2 other women from his group to escort Addie and provide her with new clothing. Confident, Tobias believed that once Addie acclimated to her surroundings, she would grow attached and be reluctant to leave. 15 minutes later, Addie emerged from the RV dressed in provocative attire and heavily made up, looking alluring and captivating. However, she felt like a post-apocalyptic showgirl in her own mind. As she mentally grumbled, Tobias's voice called out from the barbecue area. With dinner approaching, he directed the other women to make space for Addie. Addie, feeling despondent, wondered why Mac had not yet come to her aid. Determined to find a way out, she decided to explore the unfamiliar surroundings. During her walk, she came across a pipe leading to an obscure area. Pulling back a curtain, she found a dimly lit space and used her lighter to see better. The room was cluttered with medical equipment and various tools, making her uneasy. On a nearby table, she saw an assortment of items, including an electronic scale. The unsettling atmosphere led her to suspect that the meat Tobias had served might have been processed in this very place.